Hello and welcome to Economic Forum, a program where we discuss various issues affecting our country, Zimbabwe. These can be issues to do with agriculture, with tourism, education, manufacturing, and even information technology. My name is John Masugu. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is affecting the world rapidly in various ways, as it is a simulation of human behavior in machines, especially computers. Nowadays, you are able to find your directions or to hold your meetings, far away from offices or without anyone telling you how you take your corners and maneuvers, all because our phones have got everything. And that can also cascade into business development. And to discuss that, we've invited engineer Jacob Mutisi, who is an ICT specialist, who is going to be unpacking what artificial intelligence is all about in detail as we discuss. But first of all, we welcome you to Economic Forum.
Thank you, Mr. John, for inviting me.
Yes. What is the state of our understanding and our usage of AI in Zimbabwe as we stand at the moment?
Already, Zimbabwe is already a digital economy. And we may fool ourselves and think that we don't have artificial intelligence. But let me tell you, a typical example. Somebody has taken his mind and put that on a digital device. For example, if you want to do a mobile money transfer. A mobile money transfer takes you through a process that is like using your mind in order to get to the final stage whereby you can transfer your money. That whole process is part of artificial intelligence because we have taken the human mind and applied it on a device in such a way that it fulfills what you could have done physically. You could have taken that money, delivered that money. But now there's technology that you can use to actually deliver the money that you have in your custody.
It also assists in minute taking, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yes.
The days of actually somebody coming in, taking the minutes are now long gone. You can actually be having a device that you put on the table that can be recording everything that you're talking at that particular stage.
As you were giving your examples, these were pertaining to the individual. Let's go to the workplace. Let's go to industry. Do you have any examples that you can share with us where already, knowingly or unknowingly, people at factories, in offices and so forth are also using it without actually realizing that they are very much advanced in artificial intelligence?
I always give an example for somebody that has got a Gmail. You can actually start writing. It can predict what you're going to say next, and it can display what you're going to say next.
And yours just to agree and continue.
Absolutely.
Because you'll be like-minded, as it were.
Absolutely. But most people don't realize that there's artificial intelligence that has actually been added into that Gmail that you're trying to set. So the power of it now, it's very rare to find somebody that uses broken English when they're using their Gmail. So we are already using it, but the power, like you said, in industry, is not being used effectively. We are still backwards. For example, we have got the wheel of a motor industry. In Japan, they use artificial intelligence to make their cars. There is no human interactions. There are already robots in these factories that are actually making vehicles that can be on the road without a single human being or without a single human interference taking place. That's the power of artificial intelligence. I'm going to go further. We look at our passport office. There is no reason why somebody should go and queue when we have the technology that exists around the world. We should
That can actually tell you that for today, we only need 1,000 people, and not for people to sleep in queues and even fail to be assisted.
It goes a step further. I want to make it interesting. Our post offices are dying because the days of sending a letter are long gone. The faxes are long gone. So imagine turning that post office into a technology center, which is what they are doing now, and then adding the basics of artificial intelligence, whereby nobody has to come to the passport office, but they can do it from their respective 400 post offices that are dotted around the country. That will make it cheaper for somebody to travel, make it easier for government to actually produce the passports. So there's need for those kind of things to be put in place and for government to actually ride on those kind of things in order to make it easier for an ordinary Zimbabwean.
But Engineer Mutisi, all these things are coming as surprises, as even during inductions or even training, there are no formal lessons or formal introduction to say you are starting your work today and you'll be assisted by an artificial intelligence process. It's something that people are learning, by default as they go along. Why is it not formalized? Even in our educational system, why is it not infused so that people learn it properly? At times I look at my phone and it says to me, Engineer Mutisi is a few meters away and so forth. All those things, I wonder how it would develop and can we formalize the education?
Let me just tell you what I've done personally. And I'm on record to have done this. I have requested for our government to give me 40,000 youngsters that I can personally train to transform the ICT in this country. So the question is how? The youngsters of this country have got solutions to our problems. They spend 90 to 95% of their time on their mobile devices, on their cell phones, on the challenges that they encounter as youngsters. So there is a need now to say, how can we add that into the curriculum of the country to power? I'm going to go a step further.
Okay, that's Engineer Jacob Kudzai Mutisi, who has just started to explain to us how the young generation can be used to transform our society, to use more of artificial intelligence, since it's already rampant and has grown considerably. So we're going to begin our second segment with that. Join us in the second segment of Economic Forum. We are now in the second segment of Economic Forum, where today we are discussing artificial intelligence, how it can be used in industry and commerce in order to improve operations. And our guest is Engineer Kudzai Jacob Mutisi, or Jacob Kudzai Mutisi, as you are known in most of your writings. And you have just started explaining to us how you can use the young generation, which is already familiar with a lot of the technology, especially computer technology, in order to actually enhance the usage of artificial intelligence.
Correct, yes. If you look at today's technology, even at your home, to switch on the TV, you can ask a youngster to actually do everything that you want done.
They are not there. Parents can't even watch that TV.
They're in trouble.
Yes.
So we should tap into that know-how. I always give an example of Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg. They didn't even finish their degrees because they had mentors. And I'm one of those mentors, where you can say, let's get 50, let's get 100. Let's get all these high-profile guys that are within the ICT sector to actually work with these youngsters and use already technologies that they're using, which includes the artificial intelligence, to actually help develop, introduce new products, introduce new services to Zimbabwe's economy, so that this generation can actually adopt artificial intelligence at a faster rate than where we are at the moment.
And when we talk about these things, we're talking about technology, and connectivity is a problem and so forth. I was asking you about our state of preparedness. Just say something about the outlying areas, like rural areas, where just a few kilometers out of Harare or Bulawayo, you struggle just to get connected.
Right, yes, to overcome the challenges that we have in terms of rural population getting access to the internet. There's already satellite services that are available, which can provide the rural population internet access at a very, very cheap price compared to the charges that are being provided at the moment. So those companies are coming in, those companies exist, but they need to be government approvals for those companies to come into Zimbabwe. But they're already there within the regions in order for them to operate.
Yes. Now, talking about the world of work, you are bringing in all this technology. It's taking over from human beings, even in education, whereby someone has to research and do things, and technology is taking over and providing all the answers. Would you classify those as the disadvantages of artificial intelligence, or they can actually be turned into more advantages?
You know what? There are advantages because information is now on your fingertips. I always give an example when somebody says, what is the disadvantage of artificial intelligence? I would say, can you tell me something? When was the last time you held a dictionary? Just to say, I want to know the spelling or the meaning of a particular word. You look back, it's probably 10, 15 years ago. Then you ask yourself, I don't even wear a watch. They're not disadvantages. They're advantages that we should all be riding on. Trains around the world are not being driven by human beings. They're now autonomous. They can drive on their own. So those are the advantages no matter what. When it comes to education, of course, there's a challenge. Our people are going to become lazy in order to learn because information is on their fingertips. Well, but you have got knowledge right in front of you.
To actually implement.
Absolutely.
And be more practical.
Absolutely.
Because it's now easy to obtain.
Absolutely.
Yes.
If you've got a problem and you buy a new bulb and you want to replace that bulb, you can get online. It can teach you how to replace that bulb on a new vehicle that you have never done before. You don't need to get a technical people to actually put back. That's what technology has done.
A very good point that you have mentioned there, Engineer Mutisi, because at times we don't look at these instructions, and we've just said that the youngsters of today, the young generation, are able to do some of these things, even if they did not do them in class, but they are able to learn from the computers, they are able to learn from the gadgets that they have. Just tell us about this culture of actually learning, reading instructions, following instructions, so that we all understand artificial intelligence and other related matters.
Right. Great. Every youngster nowadays, I know you want to know the process. They wake up and they want to know the new thing that exists in the world. Every new thing, if I want to know what is new today, I ask my staff and they'll tell me there is such and such a new gadget. Your question was, what is the process of learning? It doesn't exist anymore. Think about it. You wake up tomorrow. COVID happens. There's got to be a new product on the market. We didn't even need to look for it. It existed because somebody had predicted it. And the reason why it existed is because we've got youngsters that are following up what is happening around the world, introducing new products that you and me might not see, but you only see it when we have a challenge that we encountered during COVID.
Yes. And ours is to take those youngsters back to bed when they're doing that research. So how can we then help these youngsters both at home and in tertiary and other institutions to actually develop and not to be retrogressive towards the acquiring or acquisition of knowledge?
I want to say thank you very much to the government of Zimbabwe for having introduced what are called innovation centers. Those youngsters now can go to these innovation centers, introduce their product within those innovation centers around the country, and those products can now be adopted and implemented into the system that makes the government operate. So the systems are there, the opportunities are there, but now there's only one problem. How does these youngsters monetize those kind of products that they would have introduced?
A very important point that you've mentioned there, Engineer Jacob Mutisi. How can some of these things that we're finding on the internet, how can artificial intelligence be monetized? Because that information is readily available, and you cannot just sell it very easily, but there is a way to monetize it. So join us in the third and final segment of Economic Forum, where we shall kick off with the question, how can we monetize some of the things that we get through artificial intelligence? We are now in the third and final segment of Economic Forum, where today we are discussing artificial intelligence. We've got a lot of education that we've received from engineer Jacob Mutisi. But one of the dangers is that you can have all this information, but like you said in the last segment, monetization. How does all this information and all that knowledge bring something on the table?
Majority of these products can actually be sold. For example, I'll give an example of a lost and found system. Let's say, for example, somebody has lost their ID. You develop a system where a person can recover their passport, their ID, their driver's license, and all that. That can link the loser and the finder. You can actually sell that to the government. Or you can create a partnership between the government and yourself, such that when somebody comes and collects that particular document, there's a certain monetary change that takes place. One, the government is going to save money by not reproducing that particular document. And there's also the process of actually keeping that document stored somewhere. There's also a way of saving money through that. So there are so many ways, including writing the program itself. You can actually write a program for artificial intelligence that you can actually sell to the bank and say, I've got a solution for the challenges that you have, and you can make money through that. Sometimes you can make a product. There's now what is called 3D. I think you've heard 3D, you can actually make meat that people can eat, which is dangerous, of course, which is unbelievable. But 3D exists because of artificial intelligence. So you can make money from making 3D machines that reproduces a certain product. So there is a vast opportunities that exist with artificial intelligence. And it's only your limited mind that will stop you from making lots and lots of money from what exists at the moment.
Well, you mentioned vast opportunities, but some of them can be on the other side of the law. There can also be criminal activities that can come out of all this. How can that be avoided so that people are aware that while there's all this knowledge, we have to be careful whether all of it is coming with good intentions?
This is the biggest challenge in Zimbabwe. We don't have people that are capable, that spend most of their time looking at ways of protecting our cyberspace. Our cyberspace is so porous that if somebody is arrested for a cybercrime and they go to courts, does the justice system understand what is provided in front of them? It becomes difficult. What is required now is for training for our law enforcement agencies to protect the cyberspace because of the new products that are being introduced on a regular basis. So the question is, who's trained to train those particular individuals? We have already got institutions that are capable of doing that. We've got colleges that are providing cybersecurity training. We have got institutions that are providing cybersecurity training. The cybersecurity is so porous that the government should make it mandatory now to have structures that deals with the cybersecurity space. What I'm trying to say is 96% of our transactions are now electronic. With 96% of our transactions being electronic, it means that crimes are now being committed on a cyberspace. And some of these youngsters that are clever are no longer using their cleverness to design systems that will make them money, but they have now decided to design systems that they can steal from existing systems that actually exist on the cyberspace.
Now, Engineer Mutisi, while we are there, just say something briefly about the existing laws, how far they go in protecting people from some of these crimes.
I want to say it's a disaster. I was part of the team that was involved in coming up to putting together what we call the Data Protection Act. It was called the Computer Crime and Cybersecurity Bill when it started. If you go through the Data Protection Act or Data Protection Bill, you'll be lucky to find the word social media. Where majority of our criminals are playing around in order to collect people's information to defraud them. So there is a need now to revisit what was done in the last 15 years and reproduce another bill that protects you and me. Because if I was a criminal and I go into court, the court will not be able to convict me without having the word mobile device in our law, without having the word social media in our law, without the word WhatsApp within our law. Those words don't exist in the existing Data Protection Act. It's a disaster for this country.
So what is important is when drafting some of these bills which become acts is to have the legal minds together with the technocrats so that these things can be incorporated. Now that you are part of that, well, we don't know why you left it out.
No, because it took us a very long time to actually, for it to move. Yes, as technology is constantly changing. When we started, it was a good document. By the time we finished, that document was almost obsolete because technology, think of 15 years ago. The only thing that existed 15 years ago was Facebook, which wasn't even operational in Zimbabwe. So there was a need to actually make sure, there's a need to actually make sure that we fast track that process.
Your final word, why we should respect artificial intelligence and not abuse it.
Yes. Look, this is the future. No matter what we're going to do, the human being is going to cease to exist to do certain things. The human being is going to cease to manufacture a particular product. A career for life doesn't exist anymore because technology is going to come in, change those mindsets, take up positions that you used to have, and machines become your bosses now. Thank you.
Well, Engineer Mutisi, I hope technology or artificial intelligence is not going to take over the hosting of Economic Forum. I would like to thank you very much for coming onto the program. That's Engineer Jacob Kudzai Mutisi talking about artificial intelligence, especially with regards to how it is affecting business and economic development, and also why it is important to formulate laws constantly so that we catch up with the developments happening in the sector. So what remains is for me to thank Engineer Jacob Kudzai Mutisi and the crew behind the scene. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can do so on the numbers that are showing on your screen. If you have missed some of the episodes of Economic Forum, you can view them on our YouTube channel, which is Economic Forum Zimbabwe. This is John Masugu wishing you happy viewing.